Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Today we're going to talk about a little bit of history when it comes to the Olympics. That's right, most of us are probably enjoying the 2012 Olympic Games being held in London, which is the first time since 1948 that the Olympics has been held in London. We're going to bring a little bit of history and also kind of get an idea of what's going on and what the experience in London is like from a particular listener who's joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today, who traveled to London to not only enjoy the Olympics, but along with his sister to pick up a medal that at the time was unknown to be had won. It was his uncle who actually participated in the Olympic Games in 1948, and we're going to be talking about that as well. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, Mr. Barney Ewell. Derek, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Hi, Daniel, and you're welcome.
Now, tell us, you went to the Olympics. How long were you over in London, and did you get a chance to be there for the opening ceremonies?
Actually, we got there after the opening ceremonies, and we were there for 6 days.
6 days, okay. And was this the first time you were ever in London?
Yes, the very first time.
Okay. Now, having been there for the first time and being there for 6 days, the first thing I need to ask is, did you notice any little differences compared to what it's like living in the United States?
Absolutely. Well, of course, people drive on the other side of the road. That's one thing. And so, when you're crossing the street just walking, you tend to look to the, I believe it's to the left in our case. You got to look to the right. And if you don't, and cars there, they seem to be pretty, not that pedestrian friendly, let's say that. Also, of course, there's the accent, and then there's the roads. There's London is kind of built in a circular fashion, which is an old design from hundreds of years ago to defend a city. They made it in a circle. So there's all these intersections that have 5 or more streets coming to them. There's a whole bunch of those. But other than that, people were friendly and very nice. As a matter of fact, I would say London, having been to New York numerous times, I prefer London.
Seems like a reasonable place to prefer if you're going to prefer between New York and London.
Yes.
Now, you were actually invited, though, to London for the Olympics, and, as opposed to a lot of people who were going because they wanted to enjoy it. There was a very special reason why you, as well as your sister, were invited to go to the 2012 Olympic Games. Let's tell us more about that.
Yes, my sister works for a nonprofit, and she's a volunteer coordinator. And she had a volunteer who works with her say, hey, I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weeks because I'm going to the Olympics. And my sister casually said, hey, my uncle was in the Olympics in 1948, which was in London. And he just got all excited and said, you have to go. You really do have to go. And in about 48 hours, he had contacted someone from the Olympic Committee who was in Eugene. Her name was Cynthia Stinger. He emailed her. And within 2 hours from when she got the email, she called my sister Tracy and said, hey, we're going to have a reception, a special thing for those who were in the 48 Olympics or their relatives. Our uncle passed away in I believe it was 2000. I forgot exactly when he passed away, but a few years ago. So anyway, that started the ball rolling, and then my sister called me and said, hey, would I like to go with her? And it turns out that my sister was also born in London, so this would be a full circle experience. So we we called each other each day with updates. I worked on the reservations and finally found a place that's really centrally located called Paddington, which is where they have a big tube and train station. It's also part of a special part of London called Little Venice, where they have canals and little boats. And it's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Now, back to the uncle and the reason that you were over in London.
Yes, our uncle won 1 gold and 2 silver medals in the 48 Olympics,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the favorite to win the 100-yard dash. His roommate and teammate, fellow Olympian Harrison Dillard, they'd said some trash talking back and forth, and Dillard said, "Hey, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat you today." And my uncle said, "Well, we'll see. I'm going to put my best foot forward." That's what he always said.
Mm-hmm.
So Dillard actually did beat my uncle, but my uncle thought he had won because he hit the tape and the tape broke. Now, the tape was made out of cotton, and it would stretch. And so Dillard also hit the tape, but it didn't break because he was on the end. So when the tape broke, and when you're running like that, everything's a blur. So
sure.
So my uncle thought he had won, and he jumped up and down. But they checked the photo, and they saw that Dillard actually won. And it took them about 2 minutes to figure all this out. So our uncle is Olympian, and he ran for Penn State. Originally, he, as a child, he had polio, and so his father, our grandfather, who was a horse trainer, trained in horse training, used a liniment that they put on horses. Mm-hmm. He put that on my uncle, and he had him run short distances while he was very young. And over time, he was able to run further and further, and faster, and eventually he was the fastest kid in the town, and then the state, and then he went to the Olympics.
Oh. Now, did you have an opportunity to talk with any other family members who were alive or around at that time when this happened for him?
We did talk to his children before we went, and we also talked to one of our cousins who, he's somewhat older than us, and he talked about, our uncle, and he said that, actually our uncle landed in the Olympics when he was 30 years old because they didn't have the Olympics for the previous 2 opportunities because of the war. Right. Anyway, our uncle was 30, so our cousin said, he was out of his prime and really sprinting is a young man's sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you're at the age of 30 and you're actually winning an Olympic gold and a couple of silver medals. That's quite amazing. As a matter of fact, you're even taking a look at the Olympics today, and there are a few people that, are reaching or just beyond that age category that are medaling as well, and it's quite amazing what we're able to do. Yes. Mm-hmm. Now, in 1948, it must have been a different time, as you were mentioning, the Olympics, the 2 Olympics just before that, didn't happen because of World War II. Did you get any insight about what London was like then in 1948? Because unlike America, they actually suffered some real, land casualty, if you will. Yeah. I actually did, and this information came from Harrison Dillard, mm-hmm. who my sister and I actually got to meet and talk to and hang out with for about an hour, and he signed his book that he just wrote called Bones. Mm-hmm. He said that in London there was a food shortage, and people, it was really hard to get food. Mm-hmm. And so the Olympic team had food flown in just for them. Wow. And they also brought in some extra food that they gave to the people who lived in London. Of course, they were, near the end of their rebuilding, but they were still rebuilding. There was lots of construction going on. Mr. Dillard also talked about
walking around. They just walked from place to place, and they took a ship to London. So, and another thing that came to our attention while we were there is that the interest in the Olympics was very low in 1948. A book was written called The Austerity Games, and that it talks about, you know, the attitude people had and where their focus was, and in many cases, you know, they were just surviving or overcoming, you know, the Great War, and there's lots of other issues to deal with. Right.
Which would make perfect sense when you consider things in context. Now, as you spent time with this gentleman, what insights did he actually share with you about your uncle? Did you get to learn some things maybe you weren't too familiar with?
Yes. He, well, a couple things. One is in the 4x4 relay, the U.S. team clearly won. There was, you know, it was not even close. But one of the referees claimed that my uncle handed the baton off incorrectly. Now, the baton didn't drop or anything.
Right.
And so the U.S. team was disqualified, and the British team was given the gold medal, and the British team went onto the podium.
Wow.
But the U.S. team filed an official protest, and in the process, they were able to collect some film footage from an amateur that showed the race and showed that my uncle did not hand the baton off incorrectly. So then they were awarded the gold, but they were not able to, they didn't stand on the podium, you know, they didn't get all the glory. So that's one thing that Mr. Dillard told us.
Now, did the two of them kind of hang out together at all?
Yes, they were roommates. Yes.
Oh, okay.
They went on the ship together. They trained together. You know, they were the top two American stars for running.
Wow.
And Mr. Dillard, the reason he even ran the 100-yard dash, he wasn't supposed to, or was it meters? I'm not sure. Is that he before he came to the Olympics, he had won 82 competitions in a row.
My goodness.
That spanned almost an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, they have the trials, the qualification rounds, and he was a hurdler. So he was doing the hurdles, and he hit one of the hurdles, and he fell. And therefore he didn't qualify for the hurdles. Yet he had run the 100-yard dash, and he did qualify for that. So that's why he was running the 100-yard dash. The way it was set up is my uncle was going to be the one to do that, and he was going to do the hurdles. So now they're both qualified to run the 100, and he edged out my uncle. Another thing he told me that I thought was very interesting and funny is that he had a nickname for my uncle.
Okay.
And the nickname that he came up was Google. They used to call him Google. They called him Googly Eyes.
Oh, my goodness.
Because his eyes were so big.
Right.
And they even had a little song that he sang. Googly Eyes, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Now, you know, as we watch the Olympics, a lot of times the backstories of the athletes are quite amazing in and of themselves, and I think that's what makes it so inspiring when you realize these are the top athletes, you know, in their positions in the world, and they earn the spot to be there. I mean, they're the best of the best.
Yeah.
And many of these people, well, I shouldn't say many, but there are those who actually overcome great obstacles and even adversity.
Yes.
You know, and so seeing them win, place, or even participate, you know, makes it all the more awe-inspiring. And in fact, we were watching a race It was about a week ago, and I can't remember how long the sprint. It was a fair distance race, and one of the Olympians was somebody who was a double amputee.
Yes, I watched him. Yes.
And you look at something like that, and you realize this is a guy that's going to beat me hands down, and he's got no legs below the knee, or
right.
Right around there, and he's running with everybody else who have their full legs in their feet.
Yeah.
And you see that, and you realize two things. A, it's inspiring that a guy was that good to get to that level, but it also says, look at how far prosthetics have gone along. So that makes that a unique message by itself.
Yes.
Your uncle really was no different when it talks about what he overcame to become one of the best sprinters, or at one point, the best sprinter in the world. Tell us about that.
Well, I believe I mentioned that he did have polio, and polio is a very debilitating disease that affects the muscles. And our grandfather literally was his first coach, and put horse liniment on his legs and made him run short distances when he was just a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, he ran further and further and faster. And then he became, the fastest kid in the area, and then in the town. And then he went on to Penn State, where he was also a champion runner. I believe he had numerous records at Penn State. Then eventually he went to the Olympics. And I just wanted to mention something about Penn State. In the process, before we went to the Olympics, my sister and I, we were looking for his medals. And we found a news report saying they were stolen from Penn State. Now, the place or the case that they were in, there were other medals. But the only ones that were stolen were my uncle's. A gold and a silver.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And does anybody have an idea why that was? Or?
My sister, no, we don't. My sister was able to contact the Penn State security, and they said that they had two suspects. That's all they would say.
Hmm. Fascinating. Now, what was it like for you to actually receive the medals? Tell us about that ceremony there.
What do you mean receive the medals? We didn't receive them.
Oh, okay. No, my apologies.
No. The medals are still missing. So we don't, we didn't receive them or anything like that. But I did get to hold a gold medal and wear a gold medal.
Ah.
From the person who spoke at the reception that we went to at the USA House.
Mm-hmm.
And the USA House is where Olympians from the United States get to hang out. If they want to hang out, they can hang out and eat and talk to people and relax and watch games. And while we're there, we met Carl Lewis.
Wow.
We met, Kimberly Rhodes. She was the first person to win a gold medal for the U.S. In skeet shooting. Mm-hmm. We met her and her husband and her father, who's her coach. We met Michael Mann. We also met number 13 on the volleyball team. His last name's Stanley. And we met the parents of number 12 on the volleyball team, last name Holmes. We met his parents.
Ah. Yeah. It's pretty amazing, too, when you have the opportunity to meet people such as Olympians, and we tend to kind of look at them in awe and that they're larger than life, and you realize, they're just pretty much everyday people. They just have, extraordinary ability.
Yeah. Well, they're normal, but they're also extra normal.
Uh-huh.
For example, the volleyball players. I mean, they're tall. They can jump really high, and they can swing their arms and make that ball, fly. And of course, these people are, they represent, the highest, physical and emotional and mental achievement of humans. So they're interesting.
I can imagine. Now,
go ahead. We also met Cynthia Stinger, who invited us. So and she's a gold medalist also.
So I'm sure that 6 days is something you're going to pretty much remember for life here.
Absolutely. Really, this is like the biggest thing I've ever done. Going to this Olympics.
And were there events that you had the opportunity to take the time to enjoy watching?
Yes. Cynthia Stinger, when we showed up at the reception, did a little bit of negotiating, and she got us tickets to go see men's volleyball. And so we got to watch the U.S. versus, I get confused, not Croatia, but Czech Republic, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. did win, and they won handily, like 25-19 and 25-18, something like that. 3 in a row, the best out of 5. So we did get to see that, and that was great.
Sounds like so much fun. I'm sure there are a lot of people who would have liked to have gone, and they're still enjoying it, and it's just about ready to wrap up. Now, you mentioned earlier, Derek, a book, Bones. Tell us about that.
Yes. This book was written by Harrison Dillard and his someone who's his right-hand man, Michael McIntosh. And in this book, it chronicles Harrison Dillard's experience as a sprinter and hurdler, and of course going to the Olympics. It also talks about his experience in World War II, because he was in the war. He was involved in the Italian campaign, and it discusses how it is that he won 4 gold medals. He was in 48. He went in 48, and he also went in 52. And it has pictures of him and my uncle. And the picture that really stands out for me is the one where they're on the field talking to the referees, the judges who disqualified them, and trying to figure out, what happened and how did this happen, because as far as they know, they ran a clean race. I find this picture to be quite interesting. He also discusses he has a interesting relationship with Jesse Owens, because Jesse Owens went to the same high school and graduated from the same high school as Mr. Dillard did. And Jesse Owens was his hero, and he tried to emulate him. So, from I believe it was the Olympics that preceded the 48 Olympics, Jesse Owens represented, his town and high school, and then Dillard was able to do the same thing when the Olympics began again in 48.
That's amazing.
So this book is full of interesting information.
It's always amazing how those rare treasures occur, and you kind of look back, and it gives you a glimpse into what it was like during those times, and really intriguing stuff there. And it's such a wonderful opportunity that both you and your sister had enjoying the Olympics here. Any chances of going back to London again?
Oh, absolutely. For me, to me, London is such a wonderful city. Both, with the people. We rode, I think we rode 3 taxis. Taxi drivers were amazing. One taxi driver, after we got to where we were supposed to be, he said, "Okay, get out." And he started directing us, and he had me sit in his driver's seat, had my sister take pictures of me. Then we switched, and I took pictures of my sister. And he was just so welcoming, and it was amazing. And then, of course, London is, as you know, comparing to New York, you know, our major city. London is so historical and so open. There's wide streets. There's not, you know, a whole bunch of tall buildings, so you can see for quite a ways, look around. And to me, London's like a city-state because besides all of the history and all that, they also, you know, it's the capital of England, so they have embassies, and it's a very international city. So yeah, I'd definitely go back.
Fascinating story. Derek Ewell, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program. Is there a place people can find out more about the book Bones that you mentioned?
Oh, boy, yes. I'm glad you asked that. Yes, they can get it at authorhouse.com, authorhouse.com. That's, I believe they self-published this book.
Oh, very good. Derek Ewell, again, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Thank you, Daniel.
And there you go, folks, a little bit of Olympic history to tie in with the 2012 Olympics. Be sure that when the opportunity presents itself and you have the means to enjoy the Olympics, because they don't come around too often. We thank you for joining us. This is the Beyond 50 radio program. Be sure to visit us at our website at beyond50radio.com. The number 50. We do have a free weekly e-newsletter for you to sign up for and enjoy as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for joining us, and remember, live your day past halfway.